I'm curious. I want to get your thoughts on a fight we just saw recently. Saori Oshima getting the upset over Kana Asakura. You know, Saori has an affiliation with AACC, which of course you're very familiar with as well. I just want to know, what did you make of her performance in that fight? A very big win for her to beat someone like Kana.
そうですね。大島選手は、一度、
So Oshima actually came over to Burst in Hiroshima, our gym, with 7 or 8 other girls, and she was one of them. And my opinion of her, my impression and opinion of her, just by watching her train, was that she has that special intuition of finishing that fight. She finds that moment, she sees the opening and opportunity, and she capitalizes on it. And it's something rare these days to see a fighter with that intuition. She always fights for the finish, and I'm sure a lot of other fighters always go for the finish as well. But Oshima has that special intuition where she sees that moment and she will not let that moment pass. A lot of other fighters can always go for the fighters, but they tend to lose that opportunity when it's there, and they can't capitalize on it. But Saori can, and I do really think that it's kind of a rare breed, rare skill set to have these days. Like, I mean, all fighters can do everything. They are very well rounded, and they have a very high base on all aspects. But that intuition is something you can't teach. And I think Oshima is one of those fighters who has that from the beginning. And yeah, it's something. She has something similar to what I see in Hamasaki, Ayaka. And I'm, to say the least, I'm very excited to see where she's gonna go.
彩香とかもそういう浜崎さんとかああいうタイプに似てるんじゃないかなと思います。
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's very obvious just from watching her career to this point that there's something about her that you don't really see with everybody. So I think you said that wonderfully, and who's going to know better than you? So I'll take your word for it there. And you mentioned Ayaka, Megumi, which I'm glad you did, because I'm very curious to hear what you thought about her rematch with Emi Fujino. We saw, a while recently as well. Of course, both two fighters that you're familiar with, Ayaka closely, and then you fought Fujino back in the day, but that was 11 years ago, so a bit longer than when we last caught up. But I remember chatting about that on Twitter. So just what did you make of that fight? It was a pretty crazy one, and my goodness, Emi Fujino is just so incredibly tough. I don't know if I've ever seen kind of the bruising that she had after that fight on her face, but it was a very crazy fight. What did you think of this rematch?
そうですね。一つの本当に
For somebody who's been watching, involved in the sport as long as I have, and for someone who's seen their first encounter, that rematch, it was just a wave of mixed emotions, one after another, and you can tell that they were definitely communicating through their fists. They were exchanging emotions through their fists by hitting each other in the face, and just putting myself in their position, it was very emotional for me, and I couldn't help but to tear up. And it was a very emotional fight for me, and I'm sure it was for a lot of people who have seen our sport grow.